Good evening. It is my honor, privilege, and pleasure to bring this ECPPS Board of Education Committee meeting to order. I will ask our Superintendent, Dr. Edmonds, to lead us in the pledge in the moment of silence. Dr. Edmonds.
Good evening, Dr. Robinson, Vice Chair, Warden, board members. If we will all please stand for a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America, to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
and justice
liberty
for all.
and justice for all.
We will now have a moment of silence. And before we start with our moment of silence, the Elizabeth City Pasquotank Public Schools family extend our sincerest condolences to the family of Mr. Tysher Patterson in the Halifax County Schools community. Mr. Patterson was the principal at Enfield Middle School in Halifax County at the time of his passing due to COVID-19 last week. Principal Patterson was a humble leader with a heart for students. He will be truly missed. Let's keep his family, friends, and community, keep them in our thoughts and our prayers during this challenging time. Now we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Edmonds. Ms. Sawyer, would you have a roll call for us, please?
Dr. Janave Robinson,
Here.
Ms. Sharon Warden,
Here.
Mr. George Archuleta,
Here.
Ms. Virginia Houston, Mr. Walter B. Jolly,
Here.
Ms. Pam Pereza, and Dr. Sheila Williams. I see everyone, Dr. Robinson.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Ms. Warden, would you read our ethics awareness statement, please?
Sure. It is my duty to remind members of the board that it is your responsibility to avoid all conflicts of interest and potential conflicts of interest in accordance with Chapter 138 of North Carolina General Statutes. As public servants, it is your duty to continually monitor, evaluate, and manage your personal, financial, and professional affairs in such a way as to ensure conflicts or potential conflicts. Does of the committees have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any items coming before us today? If so, please identify the conflict or appearance of conflict and refrain from any undue participation in that particular item.
Thank you, Ms. Warden. We appreciate that. I will now entertain a motion to approve our agenda.
I make a motion, Dr. Robinson, that we approve the agenda.
And I'll second that.
It's been moved and properly second. Mr. Archuleta, Ms. Warden, any further discussion on the approval of the agenda? All those in favor say aye after the roll call by Ms. Sawyer.
Ms. Sharon Warden,
Aye.
Mr. George Archuleta,
Aye.
Ms. Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Mr. Jolly,
Aye.
Ms. Pam Pereza, Dr. Sheila Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries. We have a committee chair, Mr. Buck Jolly, to introduce our personalized education. Mr. Jolly.
Okay, tonight we have our personalized education. And the first person Presenter is Mrs. Amy Spencer, Chief Administrative Officer.
Can you hear me?
Thank you, Dr. Spencer.
Good evening, Board Chair Dr. Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, Personalized Education Committee, Mr. Jolly, Superintendent Dr. Edmonds, and board members. Tonight, I will present the key highlights of the Elizabeth City Pasquotank Public Schools Remote Instruction Plan that will be submitted to the North Carolina State Board of Education as mandated by Session Law 2020-30, Senate Bill 704. The Remote Instruction Plan provides a framework for delivering quality remote instruction to all students within the district during the 2020-21 school year for the 5 remote learning days that are required in our school calendar, as well as times that students are in remote learning status. The plan provides a foundation for blended learning with flexibility and quality to respond to future COVID-19 disruptions. Session Law 2020-30 mandated 13 components to the remote instruction plan, with the state board requiring 2 additional components and 2 optional components. Our district plan complies with all state required components, includes the 2 optional components, and reflects the voices of stakeholders from across the district. As stated previously, the district remote instruction plan reflects the voices from stakeholders across the district. Data was collected from numerous surveys and focus groups to garner what went well in remote learning and what challenges were encountered. Information was also collected from the District Community Safety and Security Council and the Re-Entry Task Force subcommittees. The district plan was designed to capitalize on the identified positives while addressing the challenges identified from the data. The following are the key highlights of the Elizabeth City Pasquotank Public Schools Remote Instruction Plan. ECPPS will use one platform for remote instruction. This platform is Canvas. Parents with multiple children in their homes express their frustration in having multiple platforms to navigate. Teachers felt the same way, with one teacher stating that, quote, training and selection of one system that both staff and students are trained in for online teaching and learning would improve remote learning. Canvas was positively identified by parents as easy for their students to use and understand. One parent stated, quote, Canvas is a good program. I think all teachers should be on the same page and run things similar. With a teacher stating Canvas has worked really well for everything. Canvas also syncs with PowerSchool. This allows parents to see their child's grades from using the PowerSchool portal. Additionally, for parents and students with limited internet access and who only have cellular service using a mobile phone, there is a Canvas app for parents, students, and teachers that is free. To ensure all students have accessibility to quality remote instruction, there will be universal schedules for elementary, middle, and high school. Parents indicated they wanted uniformity. One parent stated it would be nice to use the same thing, like Mondays, so it studies weekly, Tuesday, iReady, have it more uniform and have all the teachers' grades and schools on the same page. Everyone had something different. Teachers also indicated a need for consistency, stating they wanted consistency across elementary, middle, and across high schools. Teachers will provide direct instruction to students daily and will have times for questions and support. This is an example of the elementary school schedule. The district schedules in the plan will enable all students across the district to engage in whole group and small group instruction from their teachers. These schedules provide time for synchronous and asynchronous instruction, electives, art, music, PE, and media. Schedules also have times built in for EC, AIG, and EL teachers to work with their students, and all teachers will have established remote office hours to communicate with parents and students when needed. Screen time was considered when designing the schedules and reflect research and the recommendations of the American Academy of Pediatrics on healthy screen time. Students who have limited accessibility will have contact information for teachers and will have the ability to do their work offline. Grades and attendance will count in remote learning moving forward. One teacher stated a way to improve remote learning would be to have specific guidelines, expectations for students, parents, and teachers. Very detailed with non-negotiables. Further stating, it's hard when every teacher does their own thing and different schools are so different, as well as in the work and expectations they require of their students. One parent stated, maybe a list of what assignments are due and by when. The remote learning plan requires all teachers to communicate learning expectations using a concrete visual representation of the standard being taught, the skills and strategies being used, and how students will show their learning. These are two examples of what parents may expect. This is what teachers post for students in their physical classrooms daily, and this illustrates how it can be communicated in the virtual realm. Teachers will have professional learning prior to school starting at the ECPPS virtual conference August 5th and 6th, as well as during times built-in schedules for ongoing professional learning within their school and across the district. Some of the learning opportunities will be in the science of reading, the use of online textbooks and resources in the high school, iReady online assessments and instruction, Edgenuity online content for personalized learning, resources for online teaching and learning, and national standards for online teaching and online courses, as well as instruction in social and emotional needs. This remote instruction plan was developed by a hardworking team, and I would like to thank them for their commitment and time, as well as the parents, community members, teachers, administrators, and staff for contributing their thoughts and ideas. Together, we have created a robust remote instruction plan that reflects the voices of stakeholders and makes us ECPPS stronger. This concludes the highlights of the remote instruction plan. Thank you for your time.
Like to ask?
Dr. Spencer,
Yes, sir.
under the guidance counselor portion, the guidance counselors will be taking attendance. Is that true? Am I understanding that correctly?
No, I have under guidance counselors that they will use the virtual environment to convene groups of students as they would do in a face-to-face setting. They're going to maintain the contacts with the students and when possible, assist with contacting them. But they would take attendance as far as in their own sessions.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The question I have
And the handout.
A teacher asked me to ask if
Just okay. Mr. Archuleta has a question. Mr. Archuleta.
Absolutely.
Okay, I was asked to ask if there was any way appointments could be set up where
Dr. Robinson,
Yes.
could he repeat the question because everyone froze and there was absolutely no sound?
Okay, no problem.
And I apologize. And I was prepared to answer the question, and I'm like, oh no, there was no question. So thank you, Mr. Archuleta.
Okay, the question I have.
Right. Just a second.
You're fine.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, the question is there any way to set up an appointment if there's the safety thing, you know, the distance and all with masks, where they could meet their teacher and they could learn one-on-one with Canvas? I mean, you know, how to use it.
Oh, I understand what you're saying for the professional development piece. So what we have done at this time, because of being under phase 2, is we have created videos in small chunked sessions for all of the teachers. We also surveyed all of them to find out how comfortable they felt with Canvas. We have sent resources and other things. I have received positive comments from that. We will have virtual office hours the first week of August, partnering with the North Carolina Center for the Advancement of Teaching and their expert in Canvas. Terry Wilson, our district STEM coach, has also been very instrumental in creating those videos to help the teachers, and they have found them very helpful. So moving forward, if that is indeed something that we can do in person, what we want to do is provide ongoing professional development so that everyone feels comfortable starting out. And then in addition to that, as they are implementing the platform itself, there's research out there to show that these things should not be done one time and then, you know, kind of let go. We are a firm believer in essential services to support our teachers in the best way that we can. So that will be an option in the future if it is indeed necessary.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Mr. Jolly?
No.
Could I ask about the accessibility of those videos for parents as well as students? Will they be able to for training?
For parents, so that they will understand how to access the free app that they can use on their mobile device, how they will be able to sync that with their student Canvas account, where they will be able to not only see the assignments that are due, but also the feedback from the teachers. And we are doing that also in Spanish as well, so that we are ensuring that all of our parents that are in our district and all of our students know how to use the platform and are comfortable with that. These will be posted on our school, our district website, and also at the Parent Center. They're going to have a page where they will have the accessibility of those videos, along with other resources and things that will help parents.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Our next personnel is virtual learning by Dr. Catlin Edmonds.
All right. And we will come back and vote on that.
Good evening. Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, Committee Chair Mr. Jolly, and board members. As you're aware, Governor Cooper announced on July 14th that schools will reopen in the fall under Plan B with a requirement to provide a remote learning option for families that want to keep their students and their children in remote status. Dr. Spencer has shared with you our ECPPS remote learning plan. I will share with you a portion of kind of the big picture view of what our plans are for the students that their parents have decided to keep them in remote status. Elizabeth City Pasquotank Public Schools conducted a reentry survey for parents to gauge which option families want for their children. We also conducted a staff survey for teachers and teacher assistants to gauge where our instructional staff were in terms of what teaching method they wanted for the fall. This evening, I will share with you the data from the reentry parent survey, the instructional coach and teacher assistant survey, and next steps for engaging with our parents who prefer the remote learning option for their student. And also want to make you aware that on next Monday, the team will bring to you some very detailed logistics, not only around the remote learning option, but also the piece for our Plan B that the governor has spoken about. So as you can see from the survey participation that was pulled today at 3:15, and the survey will close today. So once the survey is closed, our Power School coordinator will disaggregate the data. We do have some of those pieces for you this evening, and we'll share those with you. To reach our families, can you go back, please? Yes, thank you. To reach our families about their survey completion, we shared the survey on all of the ECPPS social media platforms and the district website, sent Blackboard Connect call reminders from the district level, and our school principals sent out a Blackboard Connect call to their individual school families. We also provided postcards that were mailed out to families with the information on where to locate the survey for completion. As you can see, as of today, July 20th, 2020 at 3:15 p.m., we have received responses from 61% of our families. And I did notice while I was in the survey and disaggregating some of the data today, that we did have folks that were completing the survey. So my anticipation is that we will have additional responses when we look at that survey this evening. What you see in front of you now, the school responses. And we separated that by and this is the elementary schools, the ADM, the number of participants that responded from each school, and the percent that responded from each school. So as you can see, Central Elementary had a 65% response rate. J.C. Sawyer had a 50% response rate. Northside Elementary, 75% response rate. Pasquotank Elementary School, 43% response rate. P.W. Moore, 49%. Sheep Harney, 67%. And Weeksville at 77%. And these are the responses of our reentry survey that we sent out to parents for them to determine or let us know which option they wanted for their child. I do need to share with the board that when we originally sent the survey out, there were 3 options. So Plan A was included in this survey. So we're going to have in the next steps piece of my presentation, I will share with you what we're going to do to go back and capture those responses now that Plan A is no longer an option. These are the responses from our secondary schools. So these are the parent responses to our reentry survey. And you can see that at ECMS Elizabeth City Middle School, a response rate of 62%. River Road Middle School, a response rate of 62%. Northeastern High School, a response rate of 67%. Pasquotank High School, 56% response rate. And our early college at 67% response rate. So you can see that as we made a concerted effort to really get this survey out, because we need to hear from every parent. And so these are the overall responses broken down by the ADM and the number of responses and the percent. And we'll talk a little bit more about the teacher responses in a little bit. So the way this played out, when we looked at the pie chart, you can see that with Plan A, which is in the blue, when we had the 3 options out there, 26.2% said they wanted their children in Plan A, which would be 100% face-to-face. The response for Plan B, 27.2%, and that's in red. And then for Plan C, 46.5%. And we made the assumption early on that if a parent originally selected Plan A, then they would probably fall into the Plan B, but we're finding that that is not so. we have some parents that said either I want my child 100% face-to-face, or I want them to be able to use the remote learning option. And so that plan A, that group of parents, we're going to reach back out to see which plan they would like to see their students on. For our staff survey, when we looked at that data, and looking at the teachers who wanted to teach remotely, 47.5%. Those that wanted the face-to-face, which would have been plan A if it were still on the table, which is 100% of the time face-to-face, 19.3%. And our staff, our teachers, and teacher assistants that were interested in a hybrid where they teach some remote and some face-to-face was at 33.2%. And we do have that data broken down, which is not on this chart, but broken down by, so how many staff members actually want to teach remotely and how many actually want to teach in the hybrid now that the face-to-face, 100% face-to-face is off the table. And we will share those additional pieces with you Monday, but I can tell you that there are some schools that a large majority of the staff would prefer to teach remotely. And the reasons were either that someone in the home was in a high-risk category, or they're in a high-risk category, or they're not comfortable being in that face-to-face environment with the increase in trend of COVID-19. So next week, you're going to get some additional data pieces around what this looks like at each particular school. The remote learning option, and we are calling this a remote learning option because we know that the governor has said that Plan B with an option of remote learning for those parents who want it. And Dr. Spencer has done an excellent job sharing with the board this evening what the 5 remote days would look like in the upcoming school year. Well, take that, what she shared with you earlier, and apply it to our remote learning option. So I will not repeat all that she said, but I will share with you a few lessons learned as she did as well. And some of those lessons that we learned as we received feedback from our parents was that having that one learning management system, and Dr. Spencer talked about that with Canvas. Another piece that they wanted some consistency across the district was a common communication tool. So some of our schools were using Remind, different types of tools to connect with parents, and they may have students that are at several schools, and it became very confusing. So they were asking if we can have one communication tool that's used throughout the district. And we are looking at that, and you'll hear more about that next week as well. And they wanted schedules that were consistent, as Dr. Spencer shared, but also with some flexibility. So being able to have flexibility around the time that the student may be have to turn in work, being flexible with that. So if a parent has to work, then the parent can support that child when they come home. And they also, parents said to us that one of the highlights of the students' day was when they had some one-on-one face-to-face time with their teacher. So as we look at next steps for our remote learning option, we are looking at accountability protocols. And we're looking at accountability protocols for students, staff, administrators, for all in the district. We know in the spring, when we finished up, the students, if they had a certain grade by March 13th, they were pretty much done. That will not be the case with our remote learning option for the upcoming year. Accountabilities, students will receive direct instruction from their teachers on a daily basis. The students will receive feedback and grades for the work completed. Dr. Spencer shared this with you as well, but I want to highlight this piece. I think it's very important as we think about the pedagogy for the online learning. There will be professional development that will be provided for staff on best practices in K-12 online and hybrid courses using the national standards that Dr. Spencer shared earlier. A report from Hanover Research outlines the best practice approaches in the development and implementation of high-quality online and hybrid courses for K-12 students. The report also includes 4 profiles of exemplary district-level online and hybrid programs and details the elements of the online learning options offered for secondary schools. As we look at our school administrators, we're looking at developing norms and protocols for how we communicate with families and stakeholders, as well as internally in a virtual space during the remote learning option. What does that look like in virtual meetings and expectations around those? So we are going to build out pretty much a standards operating procedure guide that will be not as thick as our one that we would do for the district, but for our virtual learning space to ensure that our remote learning practices are very effective and meet the needs of our students and our staff. And at this time, I will take any questions that you may have. As we move forward for next steps, don't know what happened to my next steps slide, but I will go ahead and share with you what the next steps are. We have a percentage of families that we have not connected with, and we do not know their options. So we're going to reach out to them. We're meeting with principals tomorrow morning so that, oh, I did say that. So that I skipped that part. Thank you, Amber. The remaining 39% of the families that have not responded so that we can know what is their option for the upcoming year. And then looking at teacher and student assignments. So once we have all of the information of who wants to be, which families want their students to be in the remote learning option, then we can now look at which teachers want to be in the remote learning option as well and see if the certification is aligned with what the needs are. So when we come back to you on next week, we will have those pieces for you as well. Thank you, Amber. I just skipped that slide. Thanks. So now I will take any questions that you may have.
Go ahead. Mr. Archuleta has a question.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
I can, Mr. Archuleta.
I was wondering about our EP students and, you know, the ones that have learning disabilities.
You see?
Yes. Yes, we have definitely taken our EC students in consideration, and you will hear from Dr. Glenn, our interim exceptional children's director, on next week. She is working out a plan, one, that we can have some one-on-one assessment of our students. So there's an assessment piece that's done at the beginning of each year. So we would look at doing that in some form of one-on-one, face-to-face, as well as there may be some of the services that we provide, like speech or physical therapy, things of that nature that can be done on a one-on-one, face-to-face basis. But she will share more information with you about that next week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, concerns?
Dr. Robinson, I forgot to mention child nutrition, and I know Ms. James Davis is on this call, and she probably want to jump right in there and talk about that piece. But we are looking at potentially, we know through August, we can provide meal services as we're doing now. And we are working with DPI, all superintendents across the state, to ensure that our students that choose the remote learning option will have access to meals.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or concerns? I would now entertain a motion to approve the ECPPS remote learning plan.
Dr. Robinson, this is Virginia Houston. I move that we accept the ECPPS remote learning plan.
I second it.
It's been properly moved by Ms. Houston, second by Mr. Archuleta. Any further discussion on the remote learning plan? Hearing none, all those in favor of the remote learning plan, please say aye to the roll call. Ms. Sawyer?
Ms. Sharon Warden, Sharon Warden, Mr. George Archuleta. Ms. Warden, I hear you. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Mr. Walter Jolly,
Aye.
Ms. Pam Pereza, and Dr. Sheila Williams.
Aye.
And I know that Ms. Pereza is on here with us. She's
All
trying-
those
I see you, Ms.
opposed?
Pereza. Thank you. Yes, that's everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That I think concludes our committee report. Thank you very much, Mr. Jolly.
Thank y'all.
Are there any other matters to be brought before the board this evening?
Chair Robinson, I didn't know if you were going to share about the town hall meetings that are coming up this week to hear from parents.
Please do.
Yeah, so I'd like to share that we do have town hall meetings that are scheduled for by individual schools. And we set it up that way because we know that each school may have unique challenges and we wanted to hear from the parents from each school. And the schedule is posted on our social media platforms as well as our website. The time for the town hall meetings. And we're also scheduling a community update for Wednesday. And Tammy, I think that community update is Wednesday at 11 or 12.
Wednesday at 10. It will go live on Wednesday.
Okay, it's Wednesday at 10. Thank you.
Will we have a hard copy of that? The dates and the time?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Anything else? I would just like to thank our Board of Education members. This is an interesting time for all of us, but the major impetus that the board has constantly looked at in terms of our mission is the safety and the educational environment for our students and our employees, our faculty and staff. So I just wanted to thank the board for understanding that we want safety first so that we can have our children in a safe environment so that they can be properly educated. So thank you, Board of Education members.
Thank you.
Is there any other thing that we need to discuss this evening? If not, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Been properly moved by Mr. Jolly,
Second, Sheila Williams.
second Sheila Williams. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carries. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you. Stay safe. Hit the X. I got you.